All right, hello students. It is time for Mr. C's next Homeschool Music Academy next music theory lesson. Okay, coming right at you. Here we go. Last time we talked about or we learned about the treble clef staff and how to read the letter names of that. Now we're looking at the bass clef. Okay, lines and spaces. Bass clef, lines and spaces. How to read those letter name notes. Now, just so that you guys recall, treble clef staff is about the higher range of notes. The bass clef staff, okay, it's about the lower range of notes. And you can see, you can differentiate between the treble clef and the bass clef. The treble clef is that fancy S looking thing, okay. The symbol for the bass clef looks more like a hook with the two dots there, okay. So whenever you see this, okay, in a piece of music, you're thinking about those, you're looking at the lower pitch ranges, okay, of instruments, okay, like the obvious one, like the stand-up bass or the bass guitar, okay. They read all the notes in this kind of clef, okay, like a tuba, also an oboe. All right, those are the kind of notes. All right, this is the bass clef in which they would be reading, okay. They would be reading the notes there. Now it's going to be a little different though. All right, check it out. It's going to be a little different, and it's a new set of new formulas, okay, in which you would read those particular or recite a particular phrase to get those lines and spaces. Remember that a line note, okay, check it out in this example over here in the second measure on the bottom. The line note, okay, has the line running through it. So anytime you see a note, okay, in this case this is a whole note. We're gonna do these together. It's a bunch of whole notes. All right, anytime you see a note where the line is running through it, all right, that is our line. We're going to use the lines formula to figure out what letter name note that gets. Okay, meanwhile, a space note, make sure you know that the note head is in between the two lines. It's in between, in the space, in that space. So in which case we will use the spaces formula to figure that out. Okay, but first, let's start by reciting the lines formula. Okay, so check it out. I have a phrase here. It says, good boys do fine always, as opposed to the treble clef, which is every good boy does fine. Okay, this is good boys do fine always. When we say that, then we think of the first letters of each word there, in which case you'd have G, B, D, F, A. And that's ultimately the goal, is to say those words to get to the first letters of each word. G, B, D, F, A. Good boys do fine always, G, B, D, F, A. And you would recite that every day, about 10 to 20 times a day, okay. And then of course, cover it and make sure you got it. Okay, by the way, I forgot to mention, make sure you have your pencils and your manuscript book, your manuscript paper, so that you can write this down. You should be writing all of this down, okay. That's the only way you're going to be able to recite it on your own and memorize, okay. So again, the more you do good boys do fine always, then you say it G, B, D, F, A. You do that about 10 to 20 times, cover it up, and then test yourself to make sure you have it, okay? The spaces, okay? Now we got a different saying there. All cows eat grass, okay? So here we go. All cows eat grass, and then you would say the word A-C-E-G, as opposed to the treble clef version, which would be just the word face. That would be spelled by the letter names, F-A-C-E, face, right? But in this case, we're going to say a phrase, all cows eat grass, and then say the letters, the first letters of each word, A-C-E-G, which is the ultimate goal, to be able to read those spaces very quickly in a bass clef staff, okay? Make sure you got this down, okay? Write this down, because that's what's going to help. And then, of course, again, recite it 10 to 20 times, cover it up, then test yourself to see if you've got it memorized. If you don't have it memorized, do another 10 to 20 times again, okay, until you do have it memorized, okay? Now, you're going to take your pencils, we're going to take our pencils, and we're going to go to our 4-measure example here, okay? So we have a bass clef. We got 4 measures, okay? Imagine this being kind of like a melody almost, okay? We're using whole notes again, whole notes, which typically in a 4/4 meter, as you know, when we did our rhythm, it's 4 beats per measure. But is that what we're looking at? No, not at all. We're not looking at tempo or anything like that. We're just trying to label, identify the letter names in which each note is located. So location, that's the key, right? We go to our first measure. We think about where it's located. We ask ourselves first, is it in a line or is it in a space? Okay, in this case, we look at the note head, and again, like we went over before, it's in between the two lines at the bottom of the staff. Okay, in between the two lines, meaning it's a space note. Okay, so we look to our formulas and spaces. All cows eat grass, A, C, E, G. We apply it to the note that is located. We start from the bottom as we recite that. We go, all cows eat grass, or we could right away just go all. Well, that means that's our letter A. That's our A note. So you will take your pencil, right, and you're just going to write an A. There you go. Okay, guys? That's how you do that. Now the next one. Okay, let's ask ourselves again. Second measure. Is this a line or a space note? Well, the line, again, what constitutes a line note is that the line has to run through the note head. Is that what's happening here? Absolutely, guys. It's what's happening right there. So we recite. We go to our lines formula. We recite. Good boys do fine always. G, B, D, F, A. Okay? We start from the bottom like here. We start from the very bottom line and work our way up to the note. So let's do it together. Here we go. Good boys do fine. Oh, let's go back. Good boys do. Right? We go up to do because that's where it's located, and therefore that makes it a D. So take your pencils right now. Okay, take your pencils and label it as such. D. All right? There you go. Next one, next measure. We must decide, what are we looking at? Is the note in a space or is the line running through it? There's no line running through that note, okay? It's in between those two lines at the top of the staff, okay? So it is a space note. Again, all cows eat grass, right? So we start from the bottom space, work our way up to the note. Everybody do this with me, ready? And all cows eat grass, grass. That makes it a G. Take your pencils right now and write your G. By the way, if you've noticed, if I didn't reiterate this before from the last lesson, I'm reiterating this again. Make sure every note that you write, every letter name that you write for a note, make sure you write it in uppercase, okay? I may not have said it last time, and you guys might have done some of your homework in lowercase letters. Okay, that's okay for now, okay? But whenever you do these, whenever you're identifying letter names, notice how I always have those letter names of those notes in the lines and spaces. They're always in uppercase. Okay? Why? Because sometimes in our handwriting, in our own handwriting, we might write a letter name to identify, and it might look like a different letter. For example, when I was teaching, I would teach in the elementary school my students this exact thing, and when I stressed to them the same thing. I would tell them, beforehand, make sure when you do your examples of those notes, okay, I would give them a quiz or a worksheet of some kind doing this exact thing. And I tell them, make sure you write it in uppercase. What did they do? Some of them would start writing lowercase, and they would write like a lowercase G, for example. Okay. Now this, of course, looks like a lowercase G, but sometimes when you write it quickly, it might be like that. And so their lowercase G might look kind of like an S. And then, of course, I would have to take points off, because I'd say, oh, wait a minute. When is there ever an S note? And then they go, oh, come on, Mr. C. I meant that as a G. And then I would look at it and be like, oh, okay, you meant that as a G. But guess what? What did I say before? Did I warn you guys? Make sure you write it in uppercase. And they're like, oh, yeah. Okay. So that's the key thing, okay? It must be always written in uppercase. It's not my rule, actually, guys. It's just rules of music. They always use uppercase to identify the letter names of notes. Okay, for this particular reason, because we want to make sure that you guys actually know what note it is. Okay, there's definitely no such thing as an S note, because if you recall, guys, our musical alphabet goes from A to G, and then it starts all over again. It's always A through G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it keeps climbing in the same way, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's no H note, no I note, no S note, no Z note, okay? Nothing like that, only A through G. Last measure, guys, last measure. We're at the end. How do we know we're at the end, by the way? I'm always going to kind of ask that all the time. How do we know we're at the end? Because why? We are at the double bar line, okay? Remember that. Double bar line at the end of a song or an example means you're at the very end of a piece or an example, okay? So, last note, okay? We must decide, is this a line note or is this a space note? Well, does the line run right through that note head? Absolutely, okay? It's running right through it. It's not in between lines. The line is running right through the note head. Therefore, it's a line note. And we do our good boys do fine always. We start from the bottom line, work up to that note. Good boys. Do we need to go any further? No. Good boys. Boys, meaning it's a B note. So you take your pencil and write, again, an uppercase B, identifying that note as a B note. Okay, guys? All right. So your assignment is going to be another one of some examples. Okay, just like this. Just some random examples just like this where you're going to write the letter names of each note by identifying again. Remember the rules. You must decide first, ask yourself first, is it a space note or is it a line note? So that you know exactly which formula to use. Your other assignment is again going to be just like with the treble clef formulas, okay, of lines and spaces. You have to recite these about 20 times each, okay, every day, all right? Recite them about 10 to 20 times, cover it up, test yourself, make sure you remember what those formulas are. The more you memorize it, okay, the more you won't need this visual. You won't need to see it in order to read notes. You'll just know it. And then you'll be able to read music like you're reading words on a page. Okay, guys? So, all right, make sure you do those things, memorize, do the assignment, guys. And as always, I wish you happy practicing. Everyone take care and see you next time in class. Bye.